Good morning, sweet angels. Oh, she's a puff. Hi, I'm back to work today, but I wanted to just update you on the first book that I'm starting with the Tiny Book Challenge of Jessica's book stack, The Writing Life by Annie Dillard. You can see, first of all, I'm trying to become a tab person every once in a while. And you can see how much I've already tabbed here. Book of Annie Dillard. She's the author of An American Childhood and the one that I'm more familiar with, which is Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. I haven't read either of them, but Sophie gave this to me. This is her copy. And yeah, it's her book on writing, the writing life, what a craft and being a writer. Enjoying it so far. I'm almost done with it. It's only 110 pages and I'm on page 83. 7 different chapters. I'm on chapter 6. When it first started, I was like, oh no, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. Like, I really want to love this. Found it a little bit at the beginning, like, not accessible. It makes sense that, well, I've never read anything else that Annie Dillard writes, but she's obviously very, very intelligent and just a really beautiful writer, and it makes sense that if she's writing about writing, then the writing itself would be like to the nth degree, like very well and specifically crafted. And at some points towards the beginning, I thought, I don't get it, or swoop, like going over my head. As I went on, there are just some freaking gems in here, so it's beautiful. I would love to read you some stuff from this, but maybe not when I have like 10 minutes before work. So I'll do that later. But if you're someone that likes books about the craft of writing, this would definitely be a good one that I would point you in the direction of. Good morning. Talk to you later. Hi, cuties. I am on my lunch break at work. Just taking a little walk in the park. I have one more chapter of this to go. I'm now very curious to read Annie Dillard's other books that aren't about writing, but this was very insightful and yeah, inspiring, and there's some really standout passages in this book that are worth picking it up for. She's a master of language, that's for sure. It's dripping in metaphor, which at some points can be a bit difficult. It's challenging, I would say, but nice. I like it. It gets so self-conscious filming in public. And there was something else I wanted to say, but now I can't think of it. Hope you're all having a great day. Morning, Saturday. I'm in pajamas. I wanted to update you. I still haven't had a chance to read you some quotes from The Writing Life, Annie Dillard. So I will look for a good opportunity to do that. But since then, last night I started, and then this morning I finished Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head by the poet Warsan, who I love. I just love her poetry. I have for many, many years, since her debut collection, Teaching My Mother How to Give Birth. And this one, Bless the Daughter, was the pick for Katie James's book club for the September pick. So anyway, I read that while listening to the poet herself read on the audiobook, which I highly recommend if you're gonna read this book, because she has one of the most like single-handedly beautiful speaking voices ever. And especially with poetry, I think it's very interesting if you can find the poet themselves reading the poetry. The pace of it, the cadence, the rhythm. She emphasizes certain words and things, and also she's of Somali origin, so there's a lot of Somali words which are really beautiful when she is saying them in her own mouth. So in short, I thought it was really beautiful, and I can't wait to hear the thoughts from the book club about it. And I just wanted to update you on the next tiny book that I'm reading, which is finally The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. I'm 25 pages in and reading it alongside Renee from So I Read This Book. So we're discussing it via text while we embark. Maggie Nelson is big brain energy, so it's fun to do it with friends, strength in numbers, because she can be difficult, but amazing. I'll talk about this later. Bye. Hello, hi. I have some unfortunate news, which is I think I'm sick. Really instantaneous yesterday. I mean, I woke up with like sort of a migraine, like migraine symptoms. And then I got home and I was like eating dinner, and really within 10 minutes, maybe even less, I just declined really fast and just got like a bit swollen throat and like weird stomach, and I don't know, just, yeah, anyway, it's not fun. I do have 2 days off of work, which does come at a good time for me to rest and recover. I wanted to update you. I just finished about 45 seconds ago The Argonauts by Maggie Nelson. This was published in 2015, and this edition is Grey Wolf Press. My second Maggie Nelson, the first being Bluets, which I really loved many years ago, for a reread of that actually. But anyway, I read this alongside, like I mentioned in the previous clip, with Renee, and we've been voice messaging back and forth, just chatting about it. She finished it a little bit before me. I'll just read you the back, because it's difficult for me to kind of explain in concise words. I can more say how it made me feel, but I can't really like tell you what it is almost. Maggie Nelson's The Argonauts is a genre-bending memoir, a work of auto-theory offering fresh, fierce, and timely thinking about desire, identity, and the limitations and possibilities of love and language. It binds an account of Nelson's relationship with her partner and a journey to and through a pregnancy to a rigorous exploration of sexuality, gender, and family. An insistence on radical individual freedom and the value of caretaking becomes the rallying cry for this thoughtful, unabashed, uncompromising book. Let's first start with the kind of first impressions of this book. I think that the first sentence, October 2007, the Santa Ana winds are shredding the bark off the eucalyptus trees in long white stripes, is gorgeous. So it starts really wonderfully. There's a lot of, like it says in the back, auto theory. There's a lot of theory here. You can see that whenever there's a name on the side, this is referencing either writing of someone else or philosophy or a theory of someone. As we know, and if you aren't familiar with Maggie Nelson, she's a freaking smart lady, okay? This is big, when you talk about big brain energy, Maggie Nelson is like at the top, like number one, like from kind of who I've read. She is so smart, and Renee and I were like, I really wonder if this is really how her mind works. Like, that she's so full and referential to so many different things and people and writings and culture and theory. So it's this is a balance between really dense and very personal. I mean, the whole thing is personal, but it's going really back and forth between more like anecdotal stories about her life and her relationship with her partner, Harry, then also like much more dense at times. So those moments, those dense moments can be difficult. I'm gonna turn on the AC because I'm probably have a fever. Say that this book is not easy, and if you're thinking about reading it for the tiny kind of book challenge of Jessica's book stack, I would say it's possible, obviously. Like, once you get into it, there is a rhythm that really sucks you in. But Renee and I also thought it's a book, one, that we will come back to, and two, it might do it a service to read it slower, to really digest things. If you're someone like me who wants to understand everything that she's writing down here, it can be frustrating at times because it's really, there's some really complicated stuff in here. I found myself a little bit frustrated sometimes, but when I kind of got over that and I felt like I am soaking what I'm soaking from the theory aspect of it, and if I read it again, I'm sure I will get more out of it, and if I do some further research on some of the people that she cites here, then great. Like, I just came to terms with that, and then I just kind of fell into the personal storytelling aspect of Maggie Nelson's life. I'm a queer person, and my partner is a queer trans identifying person, so I relate deeply to Maggie Nelson and her relationship with her partner Harry. You know, the questions of identity, gender, non-gender, non-binary, blessedly not male or female. I felt that actually this book is written really for me. I mean, the only aspect of this that I don't really relate to is just being pregnant, because I don't have a womb. But there's a really striking last sort of quarter of this book about her birth. It feels like you're watching a live birth, mixed with Harry, in his own words, speaking about the kind of taking you through the moments of death of his mother. So birth and death oscillating on the page and in different passages. I cried my eyes out over there reading a few of those pages, and it doesn't happen very often that a book makes me weep, and this did. Overall, I think this is such an important book. It's so raw, it's so honest, and it's almost like, and Renee wrote me also, like, it's almost scary how honest she is and intelligent she is in this. And yeah, I just also felt very, I'm just repeating myself, but I felt very seen. Her partner, Harry, was adopted, and there's, I think, just a really beautiful passage here towards the end. This is page 139. It can be hard not to know much about one's parents, but you tell me it can be awesome too. She's speaking to him. Before you had thought much about gender, you attributed your lifelong interest in fluidity and nomadism to being adopted, and you treasured it. You felt you had escaped the fear of someday becoming your parents, a fear you saw ruling the psyches of many of your friends. Your parents didn't have to be disappointments or genetic warnings. They could just be two ordinary people doing their best. From a very young age, your parents had always been open about the fact that you were adopted. You remember feeling a spreading, inclusive, almost mystical sense of belonging. The fact that anybody could have been your birth mother was an astonishment, but one tinged with exhilaration. Rather than being from or for an other, you felt you came from the whole world, utterly plural. I just think that's so beautiful, like the plurality. I could just cry again. I won't read you all of it, but when a whole page is one big highlight for me, I just circle the page number. So if you have this book or this edition, pages 50, 51, 52, and 53, it's a section kind of right in the first third, about Harry starting to take testosterone, and it's just really, really beautiful. And now, after living beside you all these years and watching your wheel of a mind bring forth an art of pure wildness, I'm not sure which of us is more at home in the world, which of us more free. She has this also about writing. My writing is riddled with such ticks of uncertainty. I have no excuse or solution, save to allow myself the tremblings, then go back in later and slash them out. In this way, I edit myself into a boldness that is neither native nor foreign to me. In addition to kind of chronicling her birth of their son Iggy, she also speaks about being a stepmother, and I think that that's a kind of just a role that we don't really hear a lot from, or I think in the niche of the books that I read a lot of books about motherhood and what it means and feels like to be a mom, and then to hear the stepmother point of view, the step-parent, and also the stepchild. I think that that is really interesting because it's a different relationship. It doesn't mean it's more or less intense or deeply bonded, but I just found it interesting in the few passages that she kind of explores that. I've gone on for a long time about it, but I think if you're up for, I just wasn't expecting it to be so difficult at times to literally understand what she's saying, and all the theories that she references, because I feel like she's very, I feel Maggie Nelson doesn't put anything on the page that isn't with importance, that isn't chosen really carefully. So it means I value everything that's on that page. And if it's a theory or if it's something, like, I want to understand that, and that was just hard sometimes to not. But with that aside, I think she's just truly brilliant. And Renee sent me a podcast where she talks about this with Olivia Lang, who I also love, so definitely gonna listen to that when I'm, always in the evening. When you're sick, you feel worse, right? So probably in the evening, I'll give that a listen when I'm resting. Backtracking to the poetry collection by Warsan Shire, I wanted to maybe say a few more words that I wrote down, or just tell you some poems that I really loved. There's something characteristic about her poetry, which is that the body is referred to a lot of the times like spaces or rooms, like the body as a house, the body as a room, parts of the body as being different rooms. And so it's something that I see reoccurring in her work, and I think that is really interesting. When you're homeless or stateless, then you can also be bodiless. Obviously a lot about womanhood, girlhood, and being born as a female being sort of already tainted thing, a sort of dirty, ugly, sinful thing to be, and she's really digging into that, relating it specifically to Somali culture, land, language, the relationship between refugee parents and their children, and when children grow up in a different, more colonized country than their parents, so there is sort of this wall between them, in terms of language sometimes and understanding. Some poems that I really loved were Hoya Isn't Home, Bless the Sharamuto, bless the moon, bless this house, bless the blood. Those were, if you have the book, those were ones that really stood out for me. I'm always interested like in which poems kind of pop for people. If I understood it correctly, there's a poem that's sort of really about female circumcision, and I thought that that was horrifying, but really beautifully written. Her work is a lot like very sensational, like in the smell, like especially smells, and texture, like the feel of things, and color. Blue is a color that comes like up in this collection a lot. Sense of smell, incense, fruit, silks. Those were other kind of themes that I felt were inside the poems. I think she's really just so talented, so very raw, and also I think listening to her audiobook of her reading these poems is a must if you read this collection. I really think that it's worth it. She is delivering them in such a beautiful, powerful way, and I just said this already, but I think it's worth it. I couldn't log on to the book club this time around to hear everyone talk about it, and I was devastated because I look forward to it every month. But it seems that it was a really interesting discussion from what they've told me, and I think many enjoyed, so let me know if you've read it. And I wanted to just read you finally a little bit from The Writing Life by Annie Dillard, some passages that stuck out to me. Sometimes part of a book simply gets up and walks away. The writer cannot force it back in place. It wanders off to die. The written word is weak. Many people prefer life to it. Life gets your blood going and it smells good. Writing is mere writing. Literature is mere. It appeals only to the subtlest senses, the imagination's vision and the imagination's hearing, and the moral sense and the intellect. This writing that you do, that so thrills you, that so rocks and exhilarates you as if you were dancing next to the band, is barely audible to anyone else. The reader's ear must adjust down from loud life to the subtle, imaginary sounds of the written word. An ordinary reader picking up a book can't yet hear a thing. It will take half an hour to pick up the writing's modulations, its ups and downs and louds and softs. I thought that was so lovely. This is page 52, sorry I didn't say to the other ones. I do not so much write a book as sit up with it, as with a dying friend. During visiting hours, I enter its room with dread and sympathy for its many disorders. I hold its hand and hope it will get better. This tender relationship can change in a twinkling. If you skip a visit or two, a work in progress will turn on you. A work in progress quickly becomes feral. It reverts to a wild state overnight. It is barely domesticated, a mustang on which you one day fastened a halter, but which now you cannot catch. She kind of speaks a lot about writing, yes, being something that takes a lot of craft, but is also very much like outside of you, like it is its own entity, the writing itself, or the ideas, or the words that come out like are almost as another living being. The sensation of writing a book is a sensation of spinning, blinded by love and daring. It is a sensation of rearing and peering from the bent tip of a grass blade looking for a root. That's page 74. Half naked, with your two bare hands, you hold and fight a sentence's head while its tail tries to knock you over. Maybe I mentioned this, I wrote a little book review on Instagram, just a few words about this. I'm trying to push myself to do that a little bit more. But the last chapter is kind of about stunt pilots and stunt airplanes, and I got a little lost there, or just didn't enjoy that very much. So that was just a little bit disappointing that it ended just on a note that I was less interested in. But yeah, I say again that it's it's beautiful, and yeah, so many gems in here. Why are we reading if not in hope of beauty laid bare, life heightened, and its deepest mystery probed? Why are we reading if not for that? I'm gonna try to leave the house and see if some oxygen and sunlight will help me feel a bit better. But thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry if this was a little bit of a jumble or like weird order. I feel like a lot of times in the vlogs I'm going like back and forth between books, and like maybe I should make really clear sections even if they're filmed on different times, like about each book. I don't know what you guys think about that, but anyway. Yeah, okay, bye. See you next time. Mwah.